Hi, you've reached the Caldwells. Please leave a message and we will get back with you just as soon.
Welcome to the RV Work-Life Balance Podcast with your traveling nomadic hosts, Sherri and Russ Caldwell.
Hey, that's us. We're living the dream, working from home, baby.
No matter where home is.
And you can too.
Welcome back. You know, it's always so exciting here. It's great. I'm going to start with cheers.
Cheers.
Woo, cheers. So this time, I was officially told to just shut down all my interfaces, all of my surveys, everything else.
The Magic 8 Ball.
Magic 8 Ball was broken. I'm so sad. So, where are we today?
Well, before I tell you where we are, I have to say, after driving 6 hours down through the state of Mississippi, because it's a really long
hours
state.
Later.
Yes. There's a difference between the Southeast and the East Coast and, well, driving through the Southwest and the West Coast. And what did we notice? We talked about this.
We don't want to start anything on this podcast, right? To each his own, right?
But you said the scenery out west is so much more dramatic with mountains and geography, the ocean. I'm just saying.
I agree. We talked about that. Like every time we've crossed country, which has been a few times now, it's been amazing. It is stunning out west. And this is not trying to pick sides like a rap battle or something, East Coast, West Coast or anything like that. But, and we haven't actually been up to the Northeast yet. That is like high on my list.
True.
Used to be like Devil's Tower was top of the list, and we just did that recently.
Been there, done that.
It's awesome, and we're going back. I love that place.
Yep.
But you're right. We haven't done the Northeast, so I'm not going to make a decision.
Okay.
But, you're right. It is stark differences between the West Coast rugged mountains and, more level land out
Geography.
Yeah.
Drama, as you said.
Drama.
And 6 hours straight down Mississippi, which is just a lot of grass.
Yeah. Well, there was some cows. It was kind of cool.
In Mississippi.
Yeah.
No. So anyway.
Yeah. So where are we?
We are this week, 2 weeks, at the Wolf River Resort in Pass Christian, which is on coastal Mississippi.
Okay.
In September, during...
I think this is hurricane season. Which is
the most active month, except for Hurricane Katrina, which was August.
So we've chosen a great time to be here. And the funny thing is, this is we should know better.
I never thought we'd see this place again.
No, this is the second time we've been here. And if you've heard previous podcasts, we've been to other places more than once. I didn't think we were going to ever come back here. And we're here. That tells you a little bit about it. It's quirky, but
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
It was our very first trip across country to Florida.
Season 1, where we had no idea what we were doing. We were crossing country. We were heading to Florida because we had a lot of reasons why. And we stopped here on the way because we could travel on the weekends. And we stopped. And I remember this place for actually two big reasons.
We're in the same exact spot.
Oh, my. We're the exact same spot. Okay. But number one was the ants. Okay. We got here and we were not. Oh, stop. That's so creepy. But the ants, we were infested with ants within 1 day, and we were chasing ants and dealing with that for the whole time we were here. The other part was
and we thought the ants were because of the weather.
Yeah, which was the next thing, right? We were here during the tail end of a tropical storm. Which one was that?
I think it was Hurricane Ida. That was a week or maybe 2 weeks before.
Okay.
And it had wreaked havoc and devastation along the coast.
The whole time we were here, it was raining. It was the effects of this.
Aftermath.
The rain wasn't the problem while we were here. It was the storm surge. And actually, it was the rivers that were filling inland that were washing the rivers down here, and our bayou was filling up. So
We're right on the
we're
bayou.
like 50 feet from the water here on the bayou, which is really cool looking if you're into bayous, except when it starts becoming 40 feet from you, 30 feet from you, 20 feet. It was like going towards us, and we're like, this is not good.
When
and we were brand new to this.
Yeah.
No
and when we
idea.
first got here, there were these cute little docks. We're across the road, and there's some more spaces there on
Yeah.
the bayou. And there were these cute little docks out into the water.
Yeah. Even in the rain, we walked out. Oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, by midweek, the docks were underwater.
Yeah. No more docks.
And it was coming on up.
Yeah.
And that's why we thought we had ants.
And all you could see was left with the signs on posts that say, do not feed the alligators, because there's lots of alligators here. So apparently people like to throw like marshmallows and stuff, and which is like, not cool, people. Don't feed the alligators.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I was so happy when we left here because we had dodged a tropical storm. We had, battled the ants, and I'll be honest, it was like a draw. They won and I won a little bit. And we got out of here and we survived.
We never thought we'd be back.
And
yet.
I was like, never come back here again. And this time we're here. Now the weather's better. At least I don't want to jinx
The
it.
weather has been beautiful.
Do not want to jinx it here. But the weather's beautiful here. It's not too hot, not windy. There's no tropical storms.
The beaches are stunning.
Oh,
We didn't get to the beaches
we
last time.
never saw the beaches before because we were trapped in the rig with ants and a storm.
Right.
We never left and
Right.
never saw anything. So
Right.
here, the beaches are amazing here along
Yeah.
the Mississippi
It's
here,
beautiful.
Mississippi coastal view here. It's amazing. But day 2 we got here, who was back? Our good friends, the ants. Turns out the ants had nothing to do with the storm. I thought the ants were there because there was so much water in the ground. The ants were coming up and they were just
Right.
trying to get out.
Right.
Turns out, no. Ants wait for anything to roll in and they go after us.
Okay. So
So.
we're here with the ants
Yeah.
because it's $15 a night with our coast to coast membership.
I don't think you're
It's
taking
an
into account
affiliate
like
park.
the ant killer cost versus, I don't know. It might not be the same.
And
Yeah.
we are 15 minutes from where we need to be right now
That's right.
for the next 2 weeks.
That's right.
That's right. So
Why are we here, or who are we here to see?
we're here because our oldest son is here. He is here for the month at the Navy training base in Gulfport, Mississippi, which is 15 minutes away.
Yeah. And not just here to try to help us stamp out all the ants.
No.
It's cool because we get to do this kind of stuff where our oldest son in the military is like not easy to see because he's typically not located here, but he happens to be here now. So we made sure
Right.
we got here.
Right.
And our house being able to move, it was important. So
We've talked about how great it is in the RV to be able to visit friends and family across the country. And that is awesome.
yeah.
But not this kid.
No.
He has to come to us or we meet him somewhere like Gulfport, Mississippi,
Yeah.
because he has been in the Navy, active duty, for 10 years. And mostly in that 10 years, he has been in Guam and Hawaii when he wasn't on deployment down to the Middle East and all. We have a daughter-in-law. He's married, and she is from Guam. And we have a grand dog.
Hey, Axel.
So, and actually, right now, he is in the transition going back to Guam. He was in Guam, went to Hawaii for several years, was on the ship, and then now he is going back to Guam. So he has a month here in Gulfport, Mississippi,
Yep.
of all places, for training for his new position thing that he's going to be doing in Guam and other places all over the world. So anyway, we're here for our kid, and we'll be here for 2 weeks, and he'll be here for a month.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here.
Which is super
battling
cool.
ants and all of that. I was
You
going to say
almost said
aunts.
aunts.
I did. Sorry,
That's a
Aunt Kelly.
different podcast when you're battling aunts. So I want to listen to that podcast, by the way. That's awesome.
Anyway, moving on.
I don't know. Now I'm kind of hooked on battlingaunts.com. That's cool. So. All right. So
2 years ago, we met up with our oldest kid in Atlanta, Georgia, where we had lived for 25 years, right? He grew up there.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought him back from Hawaii for that week that we had for his best friend's wedding. And we were all very close with the family. His mom is my best friend, Georgia.
Yeah. Hey, Georgia and Fred.
And yeah, that's the last time we saw him, 2 years ago for the wedding in Atlanta.
Yeah, and we actually, I don't know if we've talked about it in an episode so far. I think so, where we stayed at an Airbnb at that time. We were getting some work done on our rig. We've talked about that a lot, by the way.
That was in episode 4.
Yeah, the RVing in Atlanta. During the time we were there, the Braves won the World Series, which is cool. So to be in Atlanta, that was awesome. It was a parade.
Yeah, it was.
You and our son got to go to the parade and everything.
Yep.
And I was working. Boo-hoo. But yeah, and if you check out the show notes, there's an article that Sherri wrote about all this. So if you want to read all about it, it's in the show notes.
Yeah, that was going home to the big city in a big RV.
Yeah.
And that whole experience with an RVC and everything.
So here we are, trapped with ants in Mississippi during hurricane season, no less.
For 2 weeks.
This is the one time we're actually doing 2 weeks. Like we always talk about, like we're usually 1 week somewhere.
Right.
The time we have lots of bugs and hurricane season, we're like, hey, let's stay for 2 weeks. But it's because
we're
our
spending
son is
time
here.
with
That's
our
right.
kid.
That's right.
Anytime we can get. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's try to start to connect this back to work-life balance, right? This is really cool that we're here to do this.
Right.
And, we're here working. Our son obviously here is working. Mm-hmm. And so how does this all start to connect up?
Well, we kind of bring it around to an RV work-life balance with a military theme this week. Do you have any sound effects for that?
I was told not to use my sound effects. So.
Oh, sorry. Drumbeat.
Yeah. That's okay. But we have met a lot of military people on the road, which has been really cool. Where we've traveled, we've stayed at Harvest Host, and we bumped into a lot of people at using Harvest Host, which is a cool program for staying places for one night. And as you're traveling, and we bump into people, and we end up meeting a lot of people there, and inevitably, many of them are military. Mm-hmm. And they're not just retired. Some of them are active duty, which is really interesting because retired makes sense. Anyone that's retired, you're traveling an RV. But
they're also
duty,
young because they retire after 20 years.
I know. We're just so old sometimes,
Yeah, we're retired. Really?
Yeah.
You're like 38 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy.
So, yeah, all over the place, we see retired and active duty military in the various campgrounds.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we identify or self-identify with the military because we have a Navy mom shirt and a Navy dad T-shirt that we wear on occasion, and we always get
people call out to that.
Yeah.
They'll say things like, "Oh, not what branch? When did they enter, and how long have they been in there? What is their role?
Go Navy,
where are they
or
located?
Go Army, or
exactly.
Whatever.
So they want to know where they're located, which is a big thing. Kind of like being in an RV, like where you're from, where you're going to, and people talk about their kids, where they're at, stuff like that,
and where they've been. Yeah. So it makes sense because military life is all about being on the move. And why RVing? Well, if you think about it, the transitions of military life, like our son has been transferred every 3 years. Mm-hmm. Typically, the contracts are 3 years. There are lots of moves through an active duty military career. And our son's pack up and shipping his household goods from Hawaii to Guam over the last at least 6 months, if not several months, has been a nightmare versus with us, when we're ready to go, we just pack it up and go. It takes
Pull the
us,
slides in,
2 hours. to
brush
get it all
off the
done.
ants, and we're out of here, baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, another thing is sometimes when you're transferred to a different military base, there's a wait list for on-base housing.
Squidward.
Unless you want to stay in the barracks, but he's married now, so that's
Yeah.
not appropriate.
Yeah. But the funny thing is like the housing issue. That's a good point, right? The crazy housing markets, right? That when you're
Especially
military, you're moving
now.
that much. It's one thing to rent. You definitely don't want to buy something for a limited amount of time. You're not going to make money on that.
Right. And
So,
the hassle
yeah.
involved.
Yeah, and then as we've noticed, and like that's here too, by the way, if you hadn't noticed, there's RV parks on these
Military bases.
military bases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really interesting because and I think we've noticed on this one here there's 2 RV parks.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. And they're called FAM camps, FAM camps in the RV Life Trip Wizard app.
Actually, I didn't know that.
And typically you have to be either retired or active duty military to go on these. And some of them are pretty amazing.
Sweet.
Yeah, because most Navy bases, well, in this case, Navy,
Yeah.
they're mostly
Near the
always
water.
on the water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, just this whole concept of, okay, it makes sense why military people would be a part of the RV community.
Mm-hmm.
They're used to moving around like that. And I had actually come across 2 articles, and we'll put them in the show notes, about active duty families going full-time RV. And they talked about how it makes for easier transitions. Like we said, packing up the RV versus an entire house or an apartment to have to move.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And as we know, life is much easier in smaller space. You have fewer things to worry about.
Yeah, and it's interesting about that article. Like that, I think that's cool that we're going to share that to take a look at the different kind of topics that
These families.
the
yeah.
families talk about
Yeah.
there. Because we have our viewpoint because we're doing this while we're working and living, but the military has different restrictions and stuff, and the fact that they embrace it by putting RV parks on the bases is really kind of cool. Like they're embracing that in a big way, and embracing that minimalist lifestyle is a big deal too, right? Like the idea, like we always talk about, like we have a smaller house, but that's less amounts to clean. Definitely no yard work to do, right? Which is, no, I didn't hate yard work, but it's really nice when, okay, I'm going to say this. It's really nice when someone else mows, but I'm going to be on the flip side of that, says it really is not fun when somebody's mowing when I'm on a call on Zoom.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. That's true.
yeah, but they purposely mow during the week because most people are enjoying the weekends. I work here. Come on now. So,
Well, as they said in the articles, one of the families had mentioned they have minimal space with maximum experiences. And really, that's how we feel about our travel. It's like we're in this small space,
Yep.
yeah, but oh my gosh, God, oh my goodness, the things we get to do.
yeah.
So yeah, they had also mentioned that they have more time outdoors and more time together. The military life in the family camps, it's a very social life for children. And they had mentioned that because you often have retired military people in the fam camps, the children have a lot of, adopted grandparents for a time.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool feature. Yeah. And that made me think about your childhood, Russ.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, my father was in the Navy. Obviously, our son is in the Navy. When I was growing up, we traveled a lot. Like in the Navy, you get moved around a lot. And we, specifically my brother and I, we grew up in Guam, just like our son is now in Guam, or going to be in Guam, which is cool. So I've been there before. And
lived on Guam.
We definitely lived there, and that was interesting. We weren't doing anything RV at that point, But right after that, we ended up going to, I think, Virginia Beach for a little while. And then we ended up my dad got stationed in Spain. And when we left Spain, we were coming back to South Carolina. And what's interesting was that, my dad had come back on the ship, but my mom and my brother and I, we flew back. And so we were there obviously way earlier than he was. But my parents...
on a submarine, right?
He was on a submarine tender, I think, at that time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he'll probably correct me after he hears this, but I'm doing my best to remember.
We'll have him on too.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to interview them and tell me I'm wrong. But when we flew back, my mom and my brother and I, and what was interesting is, I didn't know this as a kid. I wasn't paying attention. We were like...
Because you were what?
Elementary or middle school. Like, it was very early. But what I do remember is when we flew back, we got off the plane and we took a taxi and we ended up picking up an RV.
Your mom.
My mom.
On her own.
By herself.
Boom.
Yep. So clearly
Kudos to Judy.
They had bought, yes, Ralph and Judy, good job. They had bought an RV, a Class C Tioga RV, and we ended up moving into that and living in that for a while while my dad, his ship came back. And that was interesting. My brother and I loved it. Like, it was amazing. So, and he'll tell you this as well. We sit around and talk about this to this day. That was one of the coolest things, to live in that RV, because it was like so different. And we still went to school every day. My mom had to unhook the connections every day and drive the RV to drop us off at school. It was crazy. I mean, thinking back, I'm like, why did they do this? I wouldn't have done this. This is crazy.
On her own.
But as kids, we loved it. It was amazing. And so we did this
adventure every day.
And we got to find out all the details, because it was clearly waiting for Navy housing and all these other things.
Right.
But it was neat. And it wasn't just a temporary thing. So when we did move into Navy housing, when my dad got back, we kept camping, and we would take that baby out all over the place. It was really fun. So my brother and I got to, stay in a tent and canoe and swim and do fun things. And that was our weekend adventure. And then that grew. So we started with that Tioga, which was our favorite RV. My brother and I'll tell you, like, to this day, that Class C was amazing. But my parents upgraded to a fifth wheel. And, they had a lot more room. Great for them. It wasn't as cool as the Class C, I'll tell you. But as a kid, right? But as a parent, I get it. I totally get it as a parent why they upgraded. So,
yeah. Kitchen.
Yeah, and so it became part of our lifestyle of camping. And then, of course, my dad was still in the Navy. So when he got transferred from South Carolina to Washington to Bangor sub base, we took the RV across country, and that was cool too. So now, again, my brother and I'll tell you all of our gripes. We didn't get to go to Devil's Tower, so we got to do that recently.
Oh.
Good job. My brother and I were really interested in things like 40-foot Fred and Jellystone or whatever it was. Didn't get to do that,
But we did when we went to Grand Canyon.
We did.
Yeah.
So, but it was cool. We had a great time cross country, and it was a great experience, It was, and then when we were camping with my parents, they had a lot of friends that we would go with. So we had their friends and their friends'
Navy
kids.
Group.
Yeah. And so it was really fun. It was these group events. So I get the whole military connection with
the social life.
Yeah, RV work-life balance. I totally do, because it turned out to be, even so many years ago, something that we did as kids with our family. So it was really, really cool. So, well, okay. So I don't know if we're way over or not, but I want to let's see if we can try to wrap this up. If I had to try to take the top 3 things that we talked about here and kind of pull it together. Number 1, I guess it would be that military life and RV work-life balance really connect, right? There is an interaction.
Surprising ways that we never, you did, but it took going back in those memories, watching our son's progress and development in the Navy and remembering life back then.
Yeah, and to see that there's the campgrounds that they have on the bases these days. Like
Right.
I don't remember that as a kid. Like we didn't get to do that at the bases
You
back
didn't
then.
stay on the base when you were in South Carolina?
No, I'm not saying they didn't have it. I just don't know.
That
but
was 100 years ago, right?
pretty close. So yeah, maybe they did, but I don't think so. So to see that they've embraced that in a big way is really cool.
And I think different bases have different requirements.
Okay.
Because like when your parents were going around and staying on some of the military bases, sometimes in their retirement, they had like 2-week limited stays.
Yeah.
And then they would have to move. So I think different bases have different requirements. There's probably different sections now for full-time RV families versus the transients that we've talked about before.
That we are these days. Like, in Key West, wasn't there camping there as well? Or do you remember? I remember we camped outside the base.
There was. Well, yeah. Your parents were staying on the water in the RV campground.
Right.
And we, with our 2 or 3 kids at the time, stayed in military housing.
It's always fun when we say 2 or 3. Yeah, we can't remember how many we had at the time. You know,
right?
It's like 2 or 3. You know, it's just what happens.
But,
all right, so that tie-in is really important there. That the military life and RV work-life balance is really there. Like there's a connection there, and it's cool to see.
Yeah.
The second thing, I guess, would be the quote you said, right? Which is like this minimum space with maximum experience, which I'll be honest, reminds me of the movie Aladdin, right? Like you have itty bitty working space and all this power, right? Like that, like
genie.
That's kind of the genie, you know? That's what we talked about living in the lamp.
True.
Yeah, it's like we drive a lamp, and it's like itty bitty working space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because with that smaller space, you have less to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Once the workday is done,
the genie comes out, baby.
Comes out.
That's right. And then I guess the last thing is like this is a complete connection with there's a time to work and a time to enjoy. And that came out of these articles that you talked about as well, right?
Not worrying about all the other things, just getting to enjoy your time with your family.
Yeah.
Minimalist. We're minimalist.
Yeah, which is cool that there's an overlap, that we're not having to describe something very different, that there is this commonality to this. That's really kind of cool. I love it.
People doing different jobs, different work all over the place and embracing this RV lifestyle. So the goal with RV Work-Life Balance podcast is to share what we're learning to help anyone interested in this crazy adventure.
Is it crazy? The only thing crazy is like the ants right now. I'm going to be honest.
You are conquering the ants.
I don't know who's winning right now. But anyways, I want to thank the listeners for listening to this podcast. Definitely check out the show notes. We're going to put some cool links in there, both the photos and the places and the products we've talked about there. Check it out. And if you're new here, definitely take the time to subscribe. We're really excited to have you on this journey, and we really want to thank you for that.
And to our existing subscribers, we love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this adventure, this crazy adventure that we're on. And please be in touch. Hit us up on Facebook or through email anytime, anything. The most important thing, though, is for those of you dreaming about this, make your escape and get out here.
Yeah, let's do this. Are you ready?
I am ready. Let's go.
Let's go.
Bye.
Bye.